We're live. Dr. Owen O'Shea, welcome here and thanks for being with me. We started our marine biology career together in Townsville. I remember the day we met. I think we were both just got off a plane, which I joined in Singapore. You were coming from London. And that was the beginning of a very long journey about 17 years ago. So yeah, it's great to be with you now talking about this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Dom, and it's fantastic to reconnect with you after all these years, and to sort of share how each of our journeys have taken us to this point. Because I remember that was a long time ago, 2004. I think you were 18, I was 24, and we were both just trying to find our feet in a new country with, the whole university process. And I'd already been to university before in the 90s and failed spectacularly after one semester and was kicked out. So I was quite nervous to be there, and being a little bit older than all of my peers, it was a sort of extra challenging time for me. But yeah, it was great that you and I were able to meet and share a lot of those early experiences together that really shaped our futures that we're going to talk about today, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do remember how you had come from, I suppose, already establishing yourself as in the finance world, living in London, and then all of a sudden you're in tropical North Queensland, ready to start a marine biology degree. So that, that it must have been a big decision to make, moving over there. And I think that's
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think established is probably a little bit of a overplays it somewhat. I don't think that I was established whatsoever. I felt very lost at the time. And in those days, I was just trying to, earn money and make a living in any way I could, really. But I was working in property as an estate agent, a realtor, and I tried to move into the finance area, but it was quite a daunting prospect. I was in my late teens, early 20s, and as I said earlier, I'd failed at university spectacularly in the 90s. So all of a sudden, I was faced with trying to learn about UK financial regulations and financial planning regulations to earn my qualifications to be a financial advisor, and none of it worked out. And I'm grateful for that, because if it had have worked out, Dom, I might not have been sat here talking to you today. But I think those early days in really trying to do something that was going to be tenable for me as a young man was one of the sort of factors, I think, that motivated me to start my university career. And I think that, I swapped, financial regulations for elemental chemistry and sort of introductory marine physics and things like that. So the application was the same, just learning something new. But this was a bit different because I felt that it was applicable to a sort of model of natural systems, and I felt incredibly privileged to be able to learn these things that I did find challenging. But living in North Queensland with the Great Barrier Reef on your doorstep, we were able to put into practice what we were learning in the classroom, that sort of experiential, immersive learning model that James Cook University was so good at doing. And I think for both of us, you'll agree, that was probably one of the main reasons for our success, in that we could close our textbooks at the end of the day and then go diving or take part in graduate volunteer programs to sort of put into practice what it was we were being taught. And I think for both of us, that was one of the catalysts that drove our passion and careers forward. When I was at school, I did 3 A-levels, French, History of Art and English, and I quit French halfway through because it was just too difficult. So I ended up doing 2 A-level subjects, and I got a D and an E at A-level, and I went through clearing to get to this university that I'd never heard of. to do a subject that didn't interest me. It was hotel management, I think, and hospitality and tourism. But the reason I ended up at James Cook University was I was very fortunate enough to have gone traveling for about 2 years, and in that time learned to dive completely by chance. And then when I came back to the UK for just 3 months, I applied to 10 different universities in Australia. I wanted to go back to Australia to study marine science because this world had been opened up to me through scuba diving. And this is something that previously terrified me, the thought of being in the ocean with all these creatures. And I remember applying to 10 universities, sat in my mum's kitchen. She was living in Cornwall. And 9 of the universities turned me down, obviously, because I didn't have those A-level science requisites. But James Cook University had just started a program called University Gateway, which was a very novel idea to try and encourage those people that didn't have those A-levels to still do a science degree. However, they were going to offer me to redo my A-levels at the university as intensives. So I remember I got to Townsville, North Queensland, 3 months early and had to study English, maths and chemistry again. And what's really interesting about this is that, from what I understand, this program, the first semester it ever ran, I think there was only 3 or 4 of us that took part in it in that first year. So it wasn't deemed as a successful program. So from what I understand, the Uni Gateway program was actually disbanded after that one intake. So the way I see it, in the whole history of James Cook University and the whole sort of potential history of my trajectory to get to be where I am today, there was one window of opportunity, and it just so happened to be the spring semester of 2004. So I firmly believe that, things aligned in my favor on a level that I can't comprehend, that allowed me to be enrolled in that course. And obviously I had to work so hard after 6 years out of school to learn chemistry and maths again. And I remember I paid a PhD student for, out of hours tutoring. And he used to get so frustrated with me. Tim, his name was, and he was just trying to teach me the basics to get through this maths A-level course. It was actually a first year university maths course. And I remember being in tears. I mean, I was older than this guy. And I remember sometimes breaking down and crying in the evenings in the library because I just couldn't get it. I couldn't understand the concept. But, we worked through it together, and I passed the maths, and then obviously went into the degree program. So even just getting into the degree program initially was challenging, and I had to overcome a lot of personal issues and face a lot of academic demons, I guess, to even start the process.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember being in school, all I knew I wanted to do was marine biology, because through an early connection with diving. I was very fortunate. My parents got me into scuba diving at a young age, and I just loved it. And I wanted to study the marine environment. And other than that, I had no idea why I was even at school. I don't think, I wasn't a particularly good student. But thankfully I had some good teachers that, never gave up, and my parents were always very supportive. And I remember applying for that bridging course in chemistry. I remember it quite well. And you definitely kept a brave face, because I didn't know you were struggling too hard at all, being in that townhouse with you. Remember? I remember that.
Yeah,
really well.
yeah. I think it was because I was 24 and everybody else was 18, 19. And I think there were even some 17-year-olds. And I really felt I had something to prove. And it was the first time in my life I realized that I really had the opportunity to do something that I wanted to do, that I was slowly developing this really deep, ingrained passion for. And I was very introverted and very private because I did feel somewhat socially outcast because I was a little bit older. And I know that we all like to party and drink and whatever, but I just took it a little bit more seriously because it was a huge economic investment as well as investment in time. And there were a lot of people relying on me to actually get the job done. So there was a lot of added pressure in those days because, you know, if I'd had failed any one of those subjects, my student visa would have been cancelled.
Yeah.
But passing those subjects and really understanding and realizing that I can do it was momentous. And it was very difficult when you want to study tropical marine biology, but first of all, you've got to understand, you know, math problems, and you've got to understand titrations and chemistry, and the English thing frustrated me as well because, you know, I felt that I wrote and spoke English well enough at the time. So it was a very difficult time, but it was the first massive challenge of what ended up being a 10-year university career.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the, you know, a big challenge at the start, but the way you got through it really, probably is one of the things that really set you up for what you've become now. You know, that this is the idea of the obstacle is the way. It's this, Marcus Aurelius. He's the last of the 5 Roman emperors. You know, he says, you know, the impediment to action is the action. So, so what stands in the way becomes the way, and very in a big way. That's what you did.